5:01. This is the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority meeting. My name is Jason Greeno. I'm the vice chair for this organization at this time, and I will be leading this meeting because our chairman is out. Let us call this meeting to order, and please join me with pledging our flag and our great nation. And could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Starkey,
I'm here.
Commissioner Naffa,
Here.
Chair Greeno.
I am here. Thank you.
Supervisor Short is on his way.
Oh, well, good. Commissioner Short, yes. All right. At this time, we will open up our public comment period. Any member of the public may address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to make their comments. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing no public comment, we will move on to our consent agenda. We have 3 items on our consent agenda. We have approved minutes for the regular session, Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. Approve the payment claim 10380 to Microbac Laboratories Incorporated for water sample analysis described under invoice 186960 in the amount of $5,452.50. And we have approved request for the Yurok tribe for 2 authority allocated bin pulls and a waiver of disposal fees for debris related to the community cleanup event.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment on our consent agenda? Seeing no public comment, we will bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Starkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa,
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes, thank you. And we will move on to our director's report.
Thank you. The Solid Waste Authority continues to operate the Klamath, Gasky, and Del Norte County transfer stations and to provide the required monitoring, accounting, and reports to overseeing agencies. We provide these services without any financial support from the City of Crescent City or the County of Del Norte, or without receiving any penny of tax. The per ton rates charged to the authority managed facilities continue to be lower than or equivalent to service fees in Humboldt and Curry County. Thank you for approving the consent agenda. We're looking forward to the Klamath River cleanup, well-organized event organized by the Yurok tribe. Thank you for that ongoing support. Looking further down the agenda, we've got requests from both Recology and Hambro for the CPI-based adjustments, and both of those requests include requests for additional increases. In the case of Recology, they're looking for additional increases for the processing fees. And in the case of Hambro, they're looking at increases in the brush cost. The general process is that we receive these requests and we ask for further information, and then we draft a change order. So that will continue. Looking further down the agenda, you can see that we've got additional information about the permit for the coastal development permit, where we're placing cement blocks where there was once a fence line along 2 of the property boundaries of the transfer station. We've got change order 26, eliminating the bins in the Smith River area. And moving on down the agenda, we're going to have to pull the travel policy under agenda item 6.1. That has not yet received formal approval from the union. So until that's done, then we're going to have to seek that approval and then bring it back. So, and I think we will just take the rest of the items as they arise. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I can move on to the financial reports.
Any questions or comments from the commission? All right, thank you.
They also is the transfer and processing reports and the inspection reports. So thanks to Kira and Michael for making sure our facilities remain in compliance to the extent that they can. Just so you all know, a regular thing when we have heavy rains is there are regularly erosion issues, and then that sometimes will show up on these inspections. But other than that, facility's running pretty well. Moving on to the financial reports, you'll see item 2.2. Just indicates our aging summary for our accounts receivable. We just have the first letter of each account name there, so so that way we're not disclosing anybody's financial information. But it does give the board a chance to see that Kathy Brewer continues to do a good job staying on top of our accounts. If anything slides into the 90 days past due, that gets referred to collection. Looking at claims approved by director, once again, you'll see the largest payments go to Hambro WSG for the good services they provide at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. And then the second largest expense in this case ended up going to the Renee Public Law Group, our legal counsel. Looking at item 2.4, the monthly cash and charge reports. This kind of brings us to the end of the winter season. Typically, the January and February months are some of the lowest income months of the year, and certainly that again proved to be true. To the point that rarely, but in this case it's happened, on agenda item 2.5, you'll see that our revenues are actually currently below projection. Rarely does it happen. Usually we bounce back up in the spring months as our monthly revenues at the transfer station increase. So that's again what we anticipate to happen. But at this point, we are below our budget targets by $943 just at this point in the fiscal year. Again, we do not anticipate being below budget at the end of the fiscal year, but these are the winter months, so that's what happens. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No
Okay.
questions.
Moving on to item 4.1. So this is the letter that we've received from Hambro WSG asking for rate adjustments based on CPI. You can see they're also saying that the fee for green waste has increased, and so that will be part of the discussions. And whenever there's a request for compensation that goes beyond the CPI, then we generally ask for additional justifying information. So I anticipate that will happen in the coming month. But at this point, it's the general procedure is we receive this and you give direction to staff to craft a change order for consideration at the next meeting. So that's the direction we're looking for.
Do we have consensus to give direction to staff?
I just so I'm clear, since I'm kind of filling in,
Sure.
this is the process for this is it gets brought before us. We give consensus to you to then bring something formal. So the public has an opportunity at that formal time to come and have their voices heard should they object or support.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
And the process is we try to do very few rate changes each year. So we try to do it once a year at the start of the fiscal year. So the start of July, we have new rates that go into effect at the transfer station as well as for all Recology customers. And so everybody needs to know what those rate changes are well in advance because it goes into all the calculations and the software, et cetera. And so it's a negotiation process. So the start of this process is we receive a letter saying, hey, it's time, and here's all the changes that we'd like. We go through the negotiations, we get the documentation, then we come to the board and say, all right, this is what we think is justified based on the information that we have available. When the board approves that, that actually changes the contract for each of our contractors, for Hambro as well as Recology. And then those changes then get translated to customer rates by adopting a rate ordinance or a rate resolution. And this all folds into the annual budget process. And we approve our annual budget in advance of when the county does. So we have to have our annual budget approved in June. And of course, these rates flow into our budget. So it's all one step at a time, and this is where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ted, in the agenda packet, you posed a pretty decent question about the green waste. And Joel here, I didn't know if there was appetite to speak to that rate increase possibility today, or if we were going to wait for a month. It was a curious question to me too. It seemed like with the figures that you brought versus the ones that Hambro brought, I was curious to find out where that difference may be, just to help us understand what's going on.
That certainly is a possibility, but because we haven't engaged in negotiations, I think it might be most appropriate for that next month. But if Joel wants to make the pitch as to why increase is warranted, that's fine. He's welcome to do so. But we may just have that conversation.
Okay, I'm comfortable next month, but Joel, yeah, if you'd want to give us a primer, that'd be great.
No secrets in negotiations or anything. Basically, we got a rate increase from the landfill. It's actually been higher all along than what we've been paying. And what we want to do is just bring it in a line. The green waste was kind of outside of the contract originally, because when we bid the contract, that everything came to Hambro, and those years of Hambro have long passed. And so what we did was we just kept covering the cost of it, even though that disposal was higher. We left in the contract the way it was, but now we've kind of gotten to a point that we don't have any way to do something different with the green waste. So it's basically now we're going to have to start passing that cost on to the customer. That's really it. And there's 3 components to our contract, which would probably be part of the negotiations. So there's operations, there's transport, and there's disposal. Disposal is all about what we're paying to get rid of it or recycle. There's cost of recycling some things. Transportation sets on its own, so it's whatever our transportation costs are. And if we were looking at that, we'd be breaking out the transportation costs. The tricky part in our contracts is that all of our profit and our overhead has to be included in the ops side of things. So that's when it gets tricky, in contract negotiations. The transport is pretty flat. The disposal is pretty flat. But then the component that's always negotiated is figuring out what our profit margin is and how we stay afloat and how we move forward. I can tell you that probably in the coming years, we're going to have to look at the whole thing because things have changed a lot in 20 plus years. Hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, thank you, Joel. And look forward to the conversation next month. And I'm of no, I have no doubt that, a company needs to make a profit, and that's got to be built in. So I was just wanting to get that green waste piece figured out, because it seemed like the disparaging figures between Ted and what you presented was pretty stark difference. So just trying to understand that better rather than, just look on the surface. Yeah.
Basically, the rich people plan going down
Right. Yeah.
long path.
$10 a ton going over the hill is a big deal. So, yeah. So again, just looking forward to the conversation, just trying to understand it better in my head. So thank you, Ted. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Do we have a consensus for staff to go into negotiations and draft a proposal?
Yes.
All right. Is that sufficient for you?
That's perfectly sufficient.
Excellent.
Thank you. Agenda item 4.2.
Yep.
So this is just additional follow-on information to something we discussed last meeting. We are looking to place some concrete blocks where we once had fences that have been destroyed along the transfer station. So this is subject to a coastal development permit. And so we've worked with the county. We've provided the information they've been looking for. My understanding is that then they will take this package and see if there's additional appeals from the Coastal Commission, and if so, we may have to do an additional wetlands delineation, but we'll wait until we see what the Coastal Commission has to say. Probably the complicating factor is that years and years ago, before we developed the transfer station, and it was constructed in 2005, there was a wetlands delineation of the entire property, and some of those wetlands were actually along the fence line. So the blocks will be placed in things that have been designated as wetlands, but that's where the property line is, so that's where the fence was, so that's where the blocks. So that's the short of it. So this is additional information. We'll keep you updated as to how that application goes.
And that was never an issue getting the permit for the fence, right, in the past? Or
Originally,
there
it
an
was
issue?
not an issue, in part because the fence, with a standard hurricane kind of fence, it doesn't really impact the wetlands much, except for where you put the fence post. Blocks might have more of an impact, but I would argue they don't have much of an impact. But we'll just see what the permit process brings.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Just a quick question, Ted. On the map that you gave us,
Mhm.
I was kind of surprised to see the short piece on the north side of the
Uh-huh.
property. Is there people driving vehicles or what? I was just kind of wondering what drove that decision to blockade that piece as well.
Yeah, there's a drive path across the entire back of the property
I know I was aware of that on this kind of State Street
on both
side,
sides.
and it goes all the way to Benson.
It does.
I actually
Well,
drove
it doesn't go to Benson. Well, it goes to Benson through the State Street right of way.
right.
But there's nothing that's actually going from the transfer station property over our vegetated hill across that fence to Benson. There isn't any connection there. But there is connection, dirt drive paths from State Street all the way to Howland Hill.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so it does go
All
across
right.
that
So it would
short
block
little
off
stretch.
that
Exactly.
north,
And part of
north-south
the premise
corridor.
is that if we inhibit vehicles, then there will be less dumping, less camping, less of the ongoing problems we've already
Yes,
experienced.
there will.
Not the least of which is they're dropping trees. So that's been an ongoing issue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ted.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this item? All right. That's just an update. So we will move on to, unless do you have anything further?
No, that
Okay, we'll move on to 5.1. Discussion possible action regarding change order 26, eliminating franchise community recycling bins at the
for what it's
on
worth, I
staff
think
locations in
because and
Norte.
although I know it's awkward and sorry about this, but the resolution 6.3 really is intended as an explanation as to the reasons for adopting this change order. So it might be worth reviewing that resolution and taking action on that first. But I'd welcome John Perry to comment on these two actions because it is the culmination of many years of effort trying to address contamination at the community recycling bins in Smith River. So the gist of the resolution is we've made many efforts over the years trying to address the contamination issues, including consolidating the bins that were at the Howanquet RV Resort and behind the Smith River Post Office to a single fenced area across from the Community Services District building in Smith River. That initially did reduce the amount of contamination, but only for a time. And that over many years, a good portion of the materials from those recycling bins have gone straight to disposal because of the high level of contamination. And we've not successfully addressed this issue, and we've acknowledged over the years that Recology has spent a lot more on that particular aspect of the program than was ever envisioned by any of the parties. And so with great hesitation, but I think with justification, we recommend pulling those bins back, and that'll be executed under change order 26. But resolution 2026-02 explains that history and the rationale that brought us to this point.
My only concern is that the public pays attention after the fact. So are you going to issue any sort of press release that explains all of this and the reasoning behind it so that it's at least we're in front of it? Or is this meeting here today that,
We discussed this at the last few meetings.
okay,
So this is, you're correct. And that's part of our rationale for having the resolution, so that we all are telling the same story, all recounting the same history. And it's a concern. We'd rather have more recycling programs than fewer. But if we can't make a recycling program work, then we have to be honest that it's not working and those materials aren't getting recycled and we need to change.
yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I think this is, you have to do this. I'm just wondering how we can make sure that the public knows that there was this enormous amount of attempts to do something different that have failed each time. So, you know, a press release might be worthwhile, or this being posted at the site, something along those lines. So the story then gets out correctly to the public as to the attempts, the failures in those attempts, and why the ultimate decision was.
I'd like to invite John to
Sure.
comment on these issues.
So to speak to that, when we initially decided to remove them from the areas, I don't know, Ted, you might help. It was a couple weeks. We did 2 or 3 weeks posting before we ever moved them in the first place. And then we also had postings that something is going to happen. So there was probably a month and a half of notification on both sites that like really was very preemptive. And then there was also, trainings and more education, partnership with the tribe, some waste audits there, there's teaching different people on recycling, lots of communication through that. This time, once they did get moved, then there was the post, okay, this is where it's going to be, at both places we left signage up for a while. Then when it was moved to the new location that Ted referred to, like you said, it was better for a little bit. And then, it's just gotten worse and worse. And we've been talking about this for years here, well before my time as well. And we do have signage that we've also talked to Ted about that. And it also explains to them if they have any questions to call us and we can inform them where the other ones are in the local area. And that is one thing that, in the agreement, it said we were going to have 7 locations. We had 7 locations once upon a time. Hiuchi didn't work out. The property owner, they had us remove it. This was several years ago. It was a long time ago, again, before my tenure, but we've attempted to find other locations. As you know, there's not a lot of commercial property or even, that kind of property where there'd be a good space for it. We've contacted the fire station, we've contacted private businesses. Nobody wanted it anywhere around. There just wasn't a feasible spot. When that happened, I would say probably when I was in operations in, say, 21, 22, that we did add more bins to transfer station here in Crescent City, kind of the central hub. So now we have 5 there. So when it says we're reducing in this from 7 to 4, that's locations. But as far as bins, we still have 8 bins out in the local community. So, there's one at each one of the transfer stations, the remote ones, and then there's Fort Dick, and then there's 3 cardboard and 2 recycle. So we still have, a fairly good presence. So, any questions besides any else?
Any questions?
Okay.
I do have
Sure.
one. In the event that we do figure out what we're doing with the northern transfer station, I guess the option would potentially be to take one of the bins that we have at the transfer station and relocate it. Is that your idea?
And and the ones that we have that, like say the one that we're taking from Smith River, which actually we're 2 now. So basically those are just used as empty boxes in that rotation. So we have some extras. We bought new ones a few years ago to keep them in good working order. So yeah, if that happens, it's kind of always been an agreement that we would expand with the county, if in this authority, if we're going to get that transfer station, then pretty much what we have set up, the other transfer stations, it's kind of, obviously there'd be another change order, but it's kind of already set up language wise in here. So
Yeah, it's been our hope for a long time to have a staffed northern transfer station up somewhere in Smith River, but hasn't come to
and we've always
fruition.
said that, those have always been a lot better as far as contamination, but it still does happen. We just showed some pictures today, that, when that's one staff person might be busy helping somebody or what, somebody's over there and they're just shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. There was, probably 3 or 4 yards of styrofoam and black bags stuffed into recycle, recently. So, climate. So, but it still does happen. It's, it's not perfect, but it is better in these places. So.
Okay. Do you recommend that we pass this resolution now or, yeah, okay.
Yes,
Why
sir.
not wait? So we're looking at
Item 6.3.
6.3.
So just to clarify, we're going to take up 6.3 first and
Yeah.
then 5.2?
Yes, if that's okay with the board.
Well, it's in line with what we're having conversation about, so.
Well, please, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2026-02, a resolution of the Commissioners of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority of County of Del Norte, State of California, acknowledging the history of efforts to reduce contamination at community recycling bins in Smith River prior to authorizing their removal.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And I'll just say a quick statement. It's unfortunate that the community of Smith River or whoever it could have been someone from out of Smith River, who knows, decided to go and contaminate that recycling stream with garbage. So we've, as we've said, tried to figure this out for years and years and years and given grace, very long grace period on this. So it's unfortunate, but we can't keep paying for someone's trash and the destruction of the recycling. So to be dumped. So with that, we will pull. Oh, you have something?
I was just wanted to comment, like you said, we've considered a transfer station there in the past. It hasn't materialized, but that's possibly in the future, we can think about it again. When we look at the current other transfer stations that we have over in Klamath and in Gasky, the volume that Klamath has is quite a bit more than the one in Gasky. And I have a feeling that if we had one in Smith River, it would also be similar to probably what Klamath is. So it is something that should be considered in the future.
I absolutely agree. And it's just been a matter of figuring out where. I think that's the biggest challenge that we've had. So
As a matter of convenience, yes, but we have to recognize that both Klamath and Gasky operated at depth. So,
yeah,
anyway, make that clear.
thank you. All right, with that, we will pull the vote.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes. Is there any public comment on this item? My apologies. We'll just nip that in the bud. All right, seeing no public comment. Yes.
And that brings us back to item 5.1.
All right. Is there any further action required on that?
The resolution is fine as you've taken action on it, but on agenda item 5.1, we are looking for approval of that change order with act the
Oh, I see.
change you just discussed of pulling back the bin.
Okay, do we have a motion for that?
I did want to ask a question. So under nature of changes, it says approval to eliminate services related to unstaffed community drop-off bins for recycling in Smith River and Hayuchi.
Yes.
So I was wondering why Hayuchi was included in there.
Because there were recycling bins in Aiuchi perhaps during maybe 3 or 4 months of the entire duration of this agreement. There has not been a recycling bin in Aiuchi for many, many years. So no one in Aiuchi is expecting there to be a recycling bin in Aiuchi. Whereas in Smith River, we're taking bins that have been there for years and we're pulling them back. So both of them are being eliminated from the contract, but the Hayuchi one is basically non-controversial and hasn't been there for years, but we're acknowledging there's not going to be one. So we could retain in the contract the requirement that Recology establish a bin in Hayuchi, but they've not been able to do so for decades. And I don't see that situation changing. So that's the reason for its present change order. That respond to your concern?
Yeah, I was just concerned because all we've been talking about is Smith River, and all of a sudden I saw Hayuchi pop in there.
Yeah, and original the concept the process of selecting a collections contractor is we have a bid document and then we send it out to different companies and then they offered their bids. These community recycling services were described before there was a contractor to provide those services. So we said we need 7 bins. Here are the locations. You figure out where the locations are going to be. And they could never figure out a place in Hayuchi, nor could we, where we could have those recycling bins. So, like I said, they haven't been there for most of this contract.
Right. Yeah, the other thing is when you look at the subject doesn't fit including Hayuchi when it says to eliminate bins north of Fort Dick.
Understood, but like I said, the bins in Hayuchi are actually, while they're being eliminated from the contract, as far as the people in Hayuchi are concerned, there's nothing being eliminated because it hasn't been there.
Yeah, it's more of a housekeeping item.
Kind of, yeah, so we're just making it an official, quote unquote, official change in the contract.
That's
Is
correct.
the way I'm understanding it. Okay.
Yep. All right. Any further questions or comments?
Maybe we should take out the words north of Fort Dick in the subject, just eliminating unstaffed community recycling bins, since we're including Hayuchi in there.
So amend
The subject
agenda
line.
subject item.
Yeah.
We can do that.
So is that a motion you're making?
Yes.
Yes. Well, then I will second that.
So would you like to add to that motion the change order? Or do we want to take these votes?
That was the change order.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was talking about changing the agenda
Right.
item.
Yeah.
Do
I'll
we-
include
don't
it
we have to vote
into.
To change anything on the agenda? Oh,
The change order itself.
Mhm.
oh. All right.
So, point of order, we're just not going to sign this one.
If we struck out the words north of Fort Dick, then we could sign it.
Okay. Thank you.
My understanding is that would be consistent with the board's direction.
Okay.
That's the way I understand.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that works. All right. Any public comment on this? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for vote.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes, thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item 5.2, discussion possible action regarding the letter of February 23rd, 2025 from Recology Del Norte requesting service fee adjustments based on changes to the consumer price index and increases to the per ton processing fee.
Recology and has already started engaging in some of the negotiations for this letter because I felt that additional information was called for as they're looking for a 37% increase in their processing fee. Last month, we did look at the financial statements that are required under the Recology's contracts. And so I've included some of the information about their recycling processing expenses in the attached spreadsheet. And essentially, since 2021, according to the numbers in those reports, their processing costs have increased by 8.42% from 21 to 2025. And their request is for an increase of 37%. So I believe that additional supporting information is called for to justify this level of request, but we're certainly receiving the letter and would be happy to start the negotiation process for the change order, just as we have been directed to do so for Hamburg.
Okay. And I just noticed in the agenda, it says 2025 instead of 2026, which.
Excellent point, and that's true of both those letters. Thank you so much. Sorry.
So if we could get that, I guess we don't need to vote on the.
We
Just to have it
acknowledge that's
fixed.
Make
incorrect.
sure it's reflected correctly in the minutes.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's correct. We'll correct it in the minutes. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
Okay.
So for this one, it would once again be consensus direction to staff to negotiate, draft a change order for the subsequent.
All right. Do we have consensus on this? Any further questions or comments? Okay. Yeah, looks like we have consensus.
So who's involved in the negotiating?
It's primarily between myself and Kira and the respective staffs. So it'd be Kira and myself and Hambro, Kira and myself and Recology.
Okay, very good.
Okay. So is that sufficient for that item?
That is.
Okay.
And as we briefly discussed, the authority travel policy has not yet been reviewed and approved by the union, so we're pulling that item for subsequent meeting.
Okay.
So the next item is agenda item 6.2.
All right. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of McLeod Watts engagement in preparation of OPEB actuarial valuation and GASP 75 reports for fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 for an estimated cost of $6,275.
These are mandated reports that we have to provide, essentially assessing the liabilities associated with post-employment benefits for authority employees and other financial reports required under GASB 75. We've been working with McLeod Watts for many years on this front, and they seem to be providing good services. So staff recommend approval.
Any questions or comments on this item from the commission?
I'll just move to approve the approval of the McLeod Watts engagement in preparation of the OPEB actuarial evaluation at 75 reports for fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 for an estimated cost of $6,275.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, we will bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Starkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Chair Greeno?
Yes, thank you. And moving on to 6.4, since we already approved 6.3 with the above. So discussion and possible adoption of Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority Resolution 2026-03, a resolution of the Commission of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority of the County of Del Norte, State of California, establishing locations for posting and public notices.
Mr. Chairman, discussed this at the county. This is kind of a just-in-case resolution, so I'll move we approve resolution 2026-03, a resolution of the Commissioners of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority of the County of Del Norte, State of California, establishing locations for posting public notices.
Yeah, and we've done this at the city as well because, we do not have a normally regularly published newspaper for this type of thing. So, any comments?
Yeah, I was mentioning to Jason before the meeting that I thought it would be good if we could add the city hall as the fourth location for the posting.
We could. Oftentimes I find when I'm distributing the agendas on Friday afternoon, the city hall is closed. And so there's nowhere to post a notice outside the city hall if I can't get into the building. So that's why we use the library.
That's right. There really is anything to post it on out there.
Yeah, I think that we're all in the same situation. And I think our consistent posting location, I believe, is the Flynn. Is here. Does the city do here?
Yeah.
So for the public, least there's one consistent place where most of the public meetings are being posted, and that being the Flynn, and then the respective places for each agency, and the library too.
The library, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So
of
we have
course, our
two very
website.
consistent places. Which, I mean, I agree that the city hall would be a nice third place as well, but with at least two consistent places, I feel comfortable that the public knows where to go to find the information.
Yeah, that makes sense since City Hall's closed. If they were open, that would have been different.
We have a different schedule. Some Fridays are closed, sometimes
Yeah.
they're not, so.
Oh, no question about the city's work ethic.
They still work hard. They
They
just have modified their schedule.
Exactly. All right. Do we have any public comment on this? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes.
A point of clarification, who was the second
was
on
the-
that?
I need to know that too.
I believe Supervisor Short was the first,
Mhm.
and then were you the second, or did you ask a question?
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
just asked the question.
I'll
so-
second it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Pronoun
you.
time.
Clean that right up.
Apologies, I missed that. All right, moving on in our agenda to 6.5, discussion and possible action adopting potential support position for AB 2462.
Even though this is
Pellerin addressing product recalls.
though this is the second year of a 2-year session, it looks again to be a very busy session for solid waste related bills. So there's a few bills that I've brought onto the agenda. The first one is AB 2462 from Assemblyman Pellerin, and it addresses that product recalls have historically, essentially, many of them, the manufacturers basically say, oh, just bring it to your solid waste facility. Which, if it's a hazardous product, that's a problem. They can't just say that because it increases our costs without increasing their costs whatsoever, and it's just not okay to introduce a hazardous product and then when you actually have a recall, say, all right, just throw it away. So, because that increases the cost without any responsibility for the producer. So, AB 2462 would address that, and staff recommends support.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission? All right, seeing. I will accept a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the support for Assemblymember Gail Pellerin's legislation holding manufacturers accountable for dangerous recalls.
Just trying to see the mechanism in which how are they going to require them to be reimbursed? That to, oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
Ted, I see that CSAC mentioned as a co-sponsor. We heard from RCRC. that they-
RCRC is supportive.
that they're supportive of it as well. Yeah, okay, so I'll second that motion.
Okay. All right, we
Thank you very
have a motion and a second. Do we have public comment on this? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Starkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes. We have one more item. Oh, we actually have more items. So 6.6, discuss and possible action regarding a support position for AB 762 Irwin, addressing single-use vapes.
This is essentially a ban on single-use vapes, and they're problematic in terms of management at this point, primarily for school vice principals, because they regularly will confiscate them, and then they've got a bag full of things, and they've really got no home. Part of the reason for that is that oftentimes these disposable vapes have embedded batteries that you can't extract. And they've also got liquids that are part of the vaping process. And because people will introduce their own liquids, you actually don't know what's in those liquids. So it could be illicit drugs, it could be all sorts of things. But in any case, as a solid waste facility, we don't deal with embedded batteries or liquids. And so we don't have a management mechanism for that. So that's part of the ongoing challenge. There's no barrier to introducing and selling these things, but once they're sold on the solid waste side, we got no place to move them or no way to do that. So that's a inherent problem. So AB 762 essentially prohibits those for sale. But I don't pretend that this is not controversial, because there are certainly people who use those things. But like I said, increasingly they are disguised to look like anything from a highlighter to a USB key drive to all sorts of things that you wouldn't expect to be a vaping device. But
Mr. Chairman, if I could presumptively speak for high school principals, and as a parent, I will add an exclamation point to this, adopting a support position for AB 762. I'll make that motion.
And I will second it.
And it's, just to be clear, it's not completely banning the vapes. It's just banning the single use. So that makes sense.
that's correct. If they had rechargeable batteries or removable batteries, or it's a reusable device, that's not a problem. It's really the single-use ones where you're buying it, you use it, and you throw it away expeditiously.
All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Oh, you seconded. Perfect. Any public comment on this? No public comment. We'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Starkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Chair Greeno?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, 3 more items. Almost there.
Are now on item 6.7, discussion and possible action adopting a support position for SB 1180 Allen, providing guidance planning for agency programs, allocating the California Plastic Pollution Mitigation Fund.
This bill's a little unusual in that SB 54, which is the product stewardship bill for all packaging and single-use to-go foodware. That bill also establishes a fund of $500 million a year for 10 years, allocated among, I think, 12 different agencies. And so this bill essentially starts directly encouraging each of those agencies to start developing their regulations, so that when that money becomes available, we have an idea about how it's going to be distributed. And that's especially important because many of these, I think 60% of these resources are targeted to disadvantaged and rural communities like ours. And the concept being, if we were able to stop the plastic pollution associated with to-go foodware and single-use packaging, that then we should clean up the areas that have been impacted adversely by that. And a lot of those are rural and disadvantaged communities. But as you know, we only have so much capacity in our rural community. And so it doesn't help us much to have 20 different programs we could potentially apply to under each different program. So it's appropriate that we start the discussion about, for instance, if you're trying to help rural areas, let's have a single application process that then goes to multiple agencies, as opposed to multiple agencies, each with their own process. So that's the kind of discussion that SB 1180 is encouraging early on, so that as soon as those money become available, they get distributed as efficiently as possible. So that's why staff are recommending support.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the commission? Okay. And I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we support SB 1180, Plastic Pollution Prevention and Packaging Producer Responsibility Act.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any public comment at this time? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Starkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Chair Greeno?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to item 6.8, discussion and possible action regarding change order 2 with the Del Norte
And tribal lands.
Adjacent tribal lands food council. I knew it. It's just takes a second for it to get there.
I just, before we start on this, I sit on this board. Is there a conflict if I am to be voting on this? I get no financial benefit.
I don't think so, but
Oh.
it's up to you as to whether or not you want to
I'll just abstain
recuse
from this
yourself.
vote
But
since
to be
there is-
clear, as a board member, you don't receive any compensation,
at all,
correct?
no.
So there's no way that approval of this would have any impact on your personal finances,
Exactly.
just to be
not at all.
really clear. So
Okay.
you can recuse yourself or not as you wish.
I'll just abstain from it.
Okay.
I don't need to recuse myself.
This
Okay.
is a change order. We discussed last meeting that unfortunately our technical assistance contractor under our OWR4 grant, Mary Pitto of Pitto and Pitto Consulting, unfortunately has a health issue that has made her unable to participate further in the contract. And so we're essentially taking all of the tasks that she had to do now and bringing them on to the as additional tasks for the Donatal Food Council, which has been doing a great job helping us organize our community meetings and document those. So they're really in a great position to help us with this. And it is kind of a 1-for-1. It's the amount of money that we had available to pay Mary to do these things. We're moving over to the Donatal Food Council, and so staff recommends support. We could additionally adopt a change order to reduce Mary Pitto's contract, but I think that honestly is just a formality because she doesn't have the capacity to work on it anyway and won't be billing us. And we trust her on that. But just acknowledging that we are increasing the Donatal Food Council budget without concurrently decreasing Mary Pitto's budget, but I don't anticipate that being an issue.
Any questions on this change order from the commission? Okay, seeing no questions, I will entertain a motion for change order number 2.
I'll make a motion that we approve change order number 2 for the adding additional services to the technical assistance for the Del Norte and Tribal Lands Food Council.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second. Motion and a second. Do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Starkey,
Abstain.
Commissioner Naffa,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes, thank you. And we are on our last item, discussion and possible action, adopting an updated job description for account clerk solid waste.
We recently received notice from our current account clerk that she has accepted employment elsewhere. We've made it clear that we're happy to have her work with us as until we hire a replacement. But in the process of before we posted this as a vacancy that we're looking to recruit for, we thought we would update the account clerk job description, make it clear that this is intended as a support to the office and gate manager position, and it is intended to be able to step in when the office gate manager is on vacation or otherwise unavailable.
Do you have a quick question? Just because I'm filling in here. Do you operate under any union?
We do.
And did the union approve the change in this?
We have been closely talking with the union, but I suppose the honest answer is no, they haven't explicitly approved that. If you would be more comfortable with them explicitly approving it, we can go back. But I don't actually think it's necessary because it's a very small change and we're eager to start recruiting right away.
Just in my experience, when you don't consult with the union, that does become problematic later on. If you're comfortable with it, that's fine. I just want to bring up that point, just from a personal experience that we had on the Board of Supervisors. So
It's a good point, and I guess to follow up on your reasonable inquiry, I will make sure before we post this that I've consulted with the union, that they're okay with us going ahead of it. And if they express objections, then I won't do that and I'll come back to the board.
That sounds like a good solution.
Perfect.
Quite good. Yeah, just to be clear, I totally agree with Supervisor Starkey that getting their buy-in is valuable. But another point of clarification, though, is that it is the employer's prerogative to create these. And so it does not require a blessing, so to say. So I just wanted to make that clear that, yes, we want to be friendly with the union, let them know, let them get their approval, but if the board so sees fit, but we don't.
Well, I guess one other thing that's worth mentioning here is that in our previous negotiations with the union on the MOU, they did specifically carve out an opener for when the county had adopted their new salary schedule to then revisit the compensation for our employees. I believe we're still going to do that. I believe the county has adopted their new salary schedule, so it would be appropriate as we look at those to look at the new job description and as we're assessing what is the appropriate salary level for that account clerk. And we will be engaging with the union on those discussions. So in some ways, I kind of think it's a good splitting the difference. I agree with Commissioner Short that this is the prerogative of the agency to change the job description. I also agree with Commissioner Starkey that it's advisable to consult with the union and that we will have a process in the not too distant future by which we are directly consulting with the union about what is the appropriate level of compensation for this new job description.
I'm just going to make a comment that I'm under the impression that this is something that has already been done by the account clerk. What you're adding in here, that's part of the job, or
It
is this
is-
going to be in addition to what is currently being done?
It is part of the job, but we thought we really should make it absolutely explicit and
Okay.
clear because
Okay.
in general, our
Yeah.
office and gate manager has not had that level of support, has not had backup. And so consequently, she's working really hard and has been doing so for an extended period of time, not really feeling like she can take a lot of vacations because the work
Mhm.
remains waiting for her upon her return.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the point I'm making is that, it's definitely good to go to the union, but I'm just thinking that they already know or would be aware that this is part of the job and haven't objected.
All right. Do we have any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the change to the account clerk solid waste position and also to get union buy-in before it's advertised.
I'll second it.
So you're requiring the union to approve? Is that what your motion is?
Well, maybe just to notify the union about the change.
Thank you.
I think that it sounds like the union's been involved in the process so far.
They have, and just to be really clear, because I appreciate what's being raised, I will share this with the union representative. If they have a clear objection, of, please don't go forward with this, here's our concern, here's what would happen if you did go forward with it, then I won't. But if they looked at it and they said, well, I think this is going to be okay, we've got this additional process that I've just described to you, if they're at that point, then we can advertise. But essentially, if they say no, I won't do it.
That's good.
So the motion is,
Yeah, the motion is to go ahead and that we, well, I guess the wording would be that for this account clerk, solid waste position, that the verbiage would be added before the position is advertised, and that the union would be notified of the change. And if they have serious objections, then it would come back to the board.
And I'll second how he said that.
Righty. Any further discussion? All right. Please poll the vote.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes, thank you. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Ted, do you have anything else for us?
I do not, sir.
Anything else further from the commission? All right, seeing none, we will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, April